In March of this year, Netflix quietly stepped away from Meghan Markle's lifestyle brand after barely a year of working together. Then, less than 3 weeks later, the same company announced a brand new drama series with Meghan and Harry attached as executive producers. Two moves from the same streaming service about the same couple, pointing in almost opposite directions within a single month. Here's how the Sussexes' relationship with Netflix actually unfolded, and why nobody outside the room seems to agree on what it currently is. Start with the headline that broke first. In early March, multiple outlets reported that Netflix was parting ways with As Ever, Meghan's lifestyle brand, after roughly a year of partnership between the two companies. That wasn't a small detail. As Ever had been positioned as part of the broader Sussex-Netflix relationship, tied into the same ecosystem that had already produced Meghan's cooking and lifestyle series for the platform. Losing that piece looked on its face like a sign the wider deal was cooling off, and it landed right in the middle of a year where every Sussex business move was already being read as a signal about where things stood with the streamer. Then came the twist most casual observers missed. Just over 2 weeks after the As Ever news broke, Deadline and multiple entertainment outlets reported that Harry and Meghan were developing an entirely new project for Netflix, a scripted drama set in the polo world, executive produced under their existing deal and following their 2024 docu-series about the sport. The show was described as an upstairs-downstairs style drama centered on rival polo families, written by the same writer behind the series Teacup and set in the equestrian town of Wellington, Florida. So within the same month, Netflix distanced itself from one Sussex-branded product while greenlighting an entirely different one under the same overall partnership. That contradiction is exactly what pushed this story into open dispute. Around the same time the new drama was announced, Variety published a report built on testimonials from sources close to the situation, describing the overall relationship between Netflix and the Sussexes in blunt terms, quoting sources who called it far from a fairy tale. That's about as direct as anonymous entertainment reporting gets. Netflix's response was equally direct in the other direction. The company denied that the relationship was strained at all, pushing back on the framing before the new project announcement had even finished making headlines, while a lawyer for the couple separately dismissed talk of frosty meetings between the Sussexes and Netflix leadership, insisting communication between both sides remained open. So you've got a streaming giant simultaneously being reported as cooling on a couple's lifestyle brand, denying any tension exists, and announcing a brand new show with them in the same 3-week stretch. To understand how those three things fit together, instead of contradicting each other outright, you have to go back to how this deal actually started and what's happened to it since. Harry and Meghan signed their original agreement with Netflix in September of 2020, not long after stepping back from royal duties. Reported at roughly $100 million over multiple years, the deal gave them room to produce documentaries, docuseries, and scripted content across the platform. Their first major release under it, the 2022 tell-all docuseries Harry and Meghan, became Netflix's most-watched documentary debut at the time, racking up 64 million viewing hours by some counts and generating the kind of global conversation that streaming deals like this are built around in the first place. Almost nothing that followed matched it. Prince Harry's 2024 series about polo drew a reported 500,000 household views, a fraction of the first documentary's audience. Meghan's lifestyle series With Love, Meghan, which premiered in March of last year, ranked far down Netflix's own internal engagement charts, landing around the 383rd spot with roughly 5.3 million views despite the attention around its premiere, while Polo came in even further down the list at over 3,400 with its 500,000 households. Against the scale of the first release, both looked like a steep drop-off, and that decline is the backdrop for everything that happened next. By July of last year, The Sun was reporting that the couple's deal would not be renewed once it expired that September. A source told the outlet plainly that the deal was finished, that no more shows would be made, and that Netflix felt they'd gotten what they needed from the partnership. Another source added there was no animosity on either side, describing it instead as something that had simply run its course, adding that the platform had gotten what it considered the zenith of the couple's content out of that first documentary and had no hard feelings about how things had played out since. People later confirmed a version of the same story through a separate Hollywood insider, who echoed that the production agreement wouldn't be extended and framed it as part of a broader shift in Netflix's overall strategy away from multi-project deals with high-profile names, a shift that reportedly also affected a similar arrangement with Barack and Michelle Obama's production company around the same period. Except that's not how it played out. Weeks after those non-renewal reports circulated, Netflix and the Sussexes announced an extension of the deal instead, unveiling new projects including a holiday special and additional scripted content. The about face was reported by People, which noted the update came directly after weeks of reporting suggesting the exact opposite outcome. A royal commentator, speaking to GB News around the same period, called the renewal absolutely pivotal to the couple's broader business strategy going forward, tying the outcome of the Netflix negotiations directly to the financial stability of their next chapter outside the royal family, and noting that what the arrangement really needed at that point was Meghan's cooking series to carry its own weight. That extend-then-retreat pattern isn't actually new for this specific relationship either. Go back further to 2021 and you'll find an earlier round of the same dynamic. Variety reported at the time that Netflix had been caught off guard by Harry and Meghan's tell-all interview with Oprah Winfrey, which took place while the couple was already in production on the Harry and Meghan docuseries, and that the streamer was privately frustrated by what was described as poor communication around the couple's other business dealings through their company Archewell. A representative for the Sussexes pushed back hard on that framing, telling Variety the claim that Netflix was blindsided was categorically false, and adding that legal counsel from both sides had overseen the deal's evolution the entire way through, which the rep characterized as standard practice for any major Hollywood contract change. Variety also reported that Netflix had separately raised concerns about how Harry's memoir, Spare, might affect the documentary's rollout, with sources claiming Meghan had downplayed the book's likelihood to Netflix's own co-CEO at the time, only for the book to become one of the fastest-selling memoirs in publishing history when it landed in January of 2023. It's also worth remembering what the full slate under this deal actually looks like, because it shows how much has been produced in 5 years, even through all the reported turbulence. Beyond the 2 headline documentaries, the partnership has also put out Live to Lead in 2022, built around a series of leadership conversations, and Heart of Invictus in 2023, following competitors preparing for Harry's Invictus Games. None of those match the scale of the first Harry and Meghan release, but they represent a steady stream of output from a couple who, according to every non-renewal report over the past 2 years, were supposedly on the verge of losing the deal entirely. A production slate that consistently keeps shipping content is a strange thing to pair with repeated reporting that the relationship is quietly ending, and that mismatch is part of why so much of this coverage tends to contradict itself within the same month. So this isn't the first instance of reports describing internal friction, followed by a Sussex side denial, followed by the relationship continuing anyway. It's closer to a recurring shape this specific partnership keeps taking. Tension gets reported, it gets denied or downplayed. And then a new project gets announced that suggests the underlying business relationship never actually broke down in the way the reporting implied. Which brings things back to where this story started, in March of this year. As ever, the standalone lifestyle brand did lose its Netflix partnership. That part wasn't disputed by either side. But the broader content deal, the one built on scripted shows and documentaries rather than product lines, kept moving forward hard enough to greenlight an entirely new drama series within the same month. 2 different arrangements, tied to the same 2 names, moving in 2 different directions at once. Outlets covering the split treated it as evidence of a cooling relationship. Netflix's own denial and the immediate follow-up announcement suggest something closer to a company narrowing which parts of the partnership it wants to keep, rather than one pulling away from all of it entirely. What's left is a pattern that's repeated at least 3 times now across 5 years. A high bar set early with the first documentary, a visible drop-off in audience for what came after, reports of the deal ending, a denial or a walk back, and then a new project landing anyway, whether that's a holiday special, a book deal that survived early friction, or now a scripted polo drama moving forward while a lifestyle brand quietly exits stage left. Whether the current polo drama becomes the next Harry and Meghan, or the next entry in the underperforming column is the part nobody covering this story can actually answer yet. Based on the last 5 years though, betting on a clean, permanent ending either way has not been the safe bet so far. It's also worth putting the As Ever split itself in its proper context, rather than folding it entirely into the Netflix story, because the 2 brands were never quite as merged as some of the coverage implied. As Ever functioned as its own separate business, with its own retail operations, its own product lines, and its own commercial relationships outside of streaming entirely. Netflix stepping back from that specific side venture is a different kind of decision than Netflix stepping back from scripted or documentary content, since a streaming platform generally isn't in the business of running lifestyle product partnerships long-term, the way a retail or media licensing company would be. Viewed that way, the March split looks less like the beginning of the end and more like Netflix trimming a side experiment that sat slightly outside its core business, while keeping the part of the relationship that actually functions like the rest of its content slate. That distinction rarely makes it into the headlines, but it's the difference between reading this as a couple losing ground with their biggest media partner and reading it as one specific product deal ending, while the much larger content relationship keeps producing new material on schedule.